Welcome everyone to the Exoskeleton and Wearable Robotics related news for January 18 through 25, week 4 of 2026. I think that it makes sense to continue to try to do a video format as these newsletters do not appear to be getting any shorter. Perhaps this is a sign that the exoskeleton industry is becoming more and more mainstream. So first off, in industrial and occupational exoskeleton news, HeroWear has shared long-term safety data on the Apex to exosuit deployment. So this amounts to 311,000 work hours. And you can see if you're subscribed to the newsletter, you can click on it or you can check out the archive version on Exoskeleton Report. And I have written an article summarizing the impact of this. But the gist of it is fear of the unknown continues to be an obstacle to exoskeleton deployment. And we keep getting asked, well, where's the longitudinal data? Where's the longitudinal data? This is not a randomized longitudinal study. This is real world data. At 311,000 hours is a significant amount of time. So you could say that this is a longitudinal industry study using a natural experiment design. So what HeroWear is reporting is on 8 to 23 months of sustained use at 5 distribution centers, which amounts to over 300,000 work hours. And it's the equivalent of about 150 full-time workers wearing the exosuit regularly for the whole year. And they looking at both the positives plus the signs of adverse effects as well. So what they've seen is a reduction in strain and sprain. They've seen fewer injuries compared to previous recorded statistics for those sites. And they have seen no evidence that the problem that we're trying to fix, in this case with the Apex exosuit, that is lower back pain, there's no evidence that the problem is being transferred to another body area or that a new problem is being created. So this chips away at the argument that there isn't enough data, that this is experimental, that this is new, when exoskeleton technology at this point is well over 100 years old. And there are installations, there are tens of thousands of occupational exoskeletons that are actively being used, quite possibly getting into the hundreds of thousands. But again, it's not a randomized study. It doesn't have a controlled cohort, and it doesn't generalize to all exoskeleton use cases. So this is not a silver bullet that says, yes, all exoskeleton questions have been answered, but it is a step in the right direction. You can find the full study on the HeroWear website. I've included links. Also, the official press release is linked here. So then going back to the newsletter, that's it for the industrial news. On the medical side, there's another interesting article on memory shape alloys being used for an exoskeleton. This one is from the Korean Institute of Machinery and Materials. So wearable robots you can wear like clothes, automatic weaving of fabric muscles bring commercialization closer. So what they're talking about is this is similar to the nitinol shape memory wire that we are familiar with now for the last 20 years or so. But what they have done here is they have taken a similar material and cross-woven it into a fabric. So it's not just parallel lines anymore. And then they have tried to make a 3-joint elbow shoulder waist exoskeleton. The whole thing weighs under 2 kilograms, and you can see the fans in the picture as they're trying to cool it down a little bit faster, which makes sense for this type of technology. Again, the full article is on their website. I've included a link to the Korea Jungan Daily but there is also additional information on this. The Korean Institute of Machinery and Materials. Moving on with our medical news. Moving on with the medical news, there's an interesting study from NIH on the impact of a shoulder exosuit on the range of motion, endurance, and task execution in users with neurological impairments. And basically, the results that while the exosuit was clearly able to help with executing tasks, it was not so obvious that the range of motion was improved, and interference and the comfort scores definitely needed improvement. Moving on with the medical news, there is a press release from Wandercraft, which is the fully self-balancing gait assist exoskeleton for people with complete lower body disability similar to the Rex. So they have enlisted their first patient in a pilot Brigham and Women's Hospital to test the self-balancing and safety mobilization. And this is specifically for ICU patients that require remobilization after a complicated surgery. I myself was in a similar position just a few years ago, and it is challenging to get up and start walking again after you have been under anesthesia. Again, this is for a long procedure. This would be a long surgery with a long recovery. It's definitely tricky to get the body moving again. It requires a lot of people, it requires a lot of help. I personally fell down on top of my physical therapist because my legs could not be moved for days. My nervous system, I think, completely misfired. I could feel like a wave of electrical shock. So this has always been a question on the medical side where we know that a person who is undergoing an injury or medical condition becomes completely immobilized or bedridden for several days. You have not just muscle atrophy, but it takes effort to remobilize that person. And right now that's done manually with people who are trained or with family members. They themselves can get injured in the process. So the idea is, can an exoskeleton be used as a tool where the patient doesn't stay with the exoskeleton, is just used to get them moving again? There's also news from CYBERDYNE. They have signed a strategic memorandum of understanding with Carnegie Mellon University, which is one of the top university in robotics in the United States. So this will be to look into leveraging physical AI and obviously medical exoskeletons, occupational exoskeletons. And there's a hint in the press release. I have a link to it, goes directly to the CyberDyne website, that there's an expectation that the Japanese government will make an announcement that this type of technology, physical AI and exoskeleton related technology, will become a priority moving forward. Moving with the news, the newsletter now has been going on for over a year. I suggest that you subscribe. If you don't have time to read it, then I'm experimenting with this audio version. We've been doing the podcast with Dr. Tom Sugar, and the website itself has been up for more than 10 years. So if you enjoy this content, I encourage you to check out my Patreon website, the different tiers and the benefits, and join the many companies and people that are already supporting this effort. Every bit helps because it is both a financial and moral support. Obviously, with moving now on to consumer exoskeleton news, obviously with CES wrapping up, one would expect that there will be a little bit less communication regarding consumer exoskeletons. but the company Navi, which focuses on scooters and micromobility, was here in Mountain View. That's not too far away from me, but I was not there at that event physically. And they have several ideas for moving into the future, including what appears to be knee exoskeleton. Of course, it's not entirely clear if this is just a mock-up or they've been working on this for years, but it's interesting to keep up on who is trying to enter this field. Continuing with consumer exoskeletons, there's interesting YouTube video. Someone, a tech blogger, who used the exoskeleton for an entire week. This is very different from your usual, let me try this for a few minutes, or let me try this for a day, or let me do a segment, make a video, and then forget about it. Doing this type of long-term testing, I hope that this is going to be the first of many videos where we get to see this. I myself obviously have some videos but I'm mostly posting them right now on the Exoskeleton Report TikTok channel, versus this is more of landscape YouTube. This is the gentleman's channel. I suggest that you go check it out. It's Freaky Tech Reviews and Christopher Casey from Gear and Tech. And then moving on with the news, now we'll switch to military. There are a few pictures from the U.S. Air Force Central Absent Leadership visit to the 386 airmen. They're usually stationed in Kuwait, though in this case, the location is not listed. This is the most interesting picture, but I've put obviously a link to the original article. There's also one more service people squatting, and they appear to be using the Wearable Robotics Forge powered knee exoskeleton for pushing loads forward. So it's interesting. It's impossible to confirm when the images were taken. It says in the press release from the Defense Visual Information Distribution Services that this was just a few weeks ago. If so, that would be super exciting. That testing and evaluation of occupational exoskeletons for logistic purposes for the defense field in the US is continuing. Let's see, what else do we have here? Student news, and this is a new initiative funded by the Norway UT Forsk 2024 program, and it's in Norway, Brazil, Japan, and North America. One of the things that their team has done is to repurpose laboratory activities to focus on healthcare application, and they're using the Oxivo AG and MathWorks. So the Oxivo AG has a line of educational exoskeletons. It's most likely the Edge Exo Pro, but it might be the regular Edge Exo. Actually, looking at the box size, this is most likely the regular Edge Exo. And they have made an announcement on LinkedIn about this, and from there, there's a link to the actual sign up page. Not too much information is here. I signed up, but I signed up only recently. On the announcement side, IEEE has a technical committee on exoskeletons and wearable robotics specifically. That's been going on for a while, and they have announced that they have now a new leadership. I think there's, like many committees out there, there's a limit on the number of years that you can be in a leading role. So I put links to their website. They're also launching a new Facebook page and a YouTube channel. It appears that right now they're starting with communication, information distribution. It's centered mostly in Europe. There is at least one of the chairs is from North America too. And it will be interesting to see what they do. In the past, they have not been excellent at communicating what they're doing as IEEE technical committee on this topic. but it seems that they're starting off things with the intention to change. There's a new Substack, Hacking Biomechanics. It's from the centered in the UK, and it's focused on biomechanics and wearable mobility technology. They are also just now getting started. I suggest that people go and take a look and sign up. Currently, they have only one article, which is the state of play for occupational exoskeletons. On the technology side, there's a curious article. This is not exoskeleton per se related, but there's a curious LinkedIn post on the current state of two-dimensional markerless pulse tracking. We're seeing this being used more and more to trying to evaluate work conditions and to numerically understand which exoskeleton could potentially be a good fit. Now, what's happening here with these systems specifically is that this is in two-dimensional space, and there's usually some type of AI algorithm that is trying to estimate how things would look in three-dimensional space. Furthermore, you don't have any attached sensors, so this is ease of use is much higher because you basically just take a cell phone and point and click a video. In a reality, the data that you're getting is debatable exactly how accurate it is. It also really depends on how it's interpreted and so on and so on. But it's interesting that more and more people are talking about it. I think this is a very important exoskeleton adjacent topic because the reality of the fact is that, in my experience working in industry as a manufacturing engineer, is if you present people the opportunity to do point and click video quick study, they will most certainly start with that or lean towards that, especially when there's not clearly published metrics to show what is the error and what is the difference that you're getting by having cleaner data sets that use multiple cameras, multiple sensors, and attachments that workers have to wear during data capture evaluation period. And I think that adjacent technology like this has really helped propel and boost exoskeleton integration and deployment because now you're starting to get numbers that management and local leadership can sink their teeth. What is the exoskeleton doing, or what problem the occupational exoskeleton is trying to fix? Finally, I have a section on jobs within the field. I don't think I have ever seen this many in my life. That is encouraging. There's right now opportunities at HeroWear, the Northern Arizona University, and Dr. Zach Lerner. We have a podcast episode with Dr. Lerner for anyone that's curious, his focus of research. Angel Robotics has announced not one but 7 positions. They're in Korea. University of 20 has another postdoctoral research position that is related to exoskeletons and wearable robotics. There's positions at Exobionics, ASTM International, Skip, Wandercraft, and Defy. Some of them are multiple positions. If you go on Exoskeleton Report, there's the top menu bar. Under newsletter, there's the newsletter archive, all of the previous newsletters right here. And it goes on for quite a while. I've been doing this now for well over a year, and it's a good way to remind ourselves that there's positive things happening in the world, and the exoskeleton industry is moving towards mass commercialization and adoption little by little, day by day. I think that's it for me for this week. I hope that you enjoyed this. Don't be afraid to comment below, either in the archive post or send me an email or directly in YouTube. If there's any exoskeleton news that I missed, don't hesitate to let me know, and I'll be happy to retroactively include them in the next newsletter. And once again, special thanks to all of our Patreon supporters. Could not do this without you. It's just this putting this together takes quite a few hours of the day. This is not a full day of work, but starting to get close to there, especially as there's more and more news that are coming out. Thanks to our strategic partners, and also there's events calendar. I've added the new things for this week. SIORS 2026 in Shanghai is being done with a collaboration with A plus A. So there'll be representatives from Fraunhofer. So they will be putting together ExoPark as well and try to simulate the super successful ExoPark. Last time it had 24 exoskeleton entities, all in adjacent to each other, 22 producers alone, and copy that methodology at the Shanghai show in April. And one can only hope that the CES does that one day, where the exoskeleton technology starts being agglomerated in one place. All right, this time this is it for me, for Rio. I hope everyone has a fantastic week. Ciao.